It's the Dublin Special Master.
Live and direct.
Breakfast with CubCamTV.
Trickstar Radio.
Right then, people, we're back inside the building once again. Welcome back to Trickstar Radio. It's just gone 4 minutes past 9 here on Breakfast with COVID, and we are about to jump into my favourite part of the show. It is, of course, the interview hour as we continue conversations with different artists, producers, and musical figures from around the world. Today, we are talking to a dubstep heavyweight, someone who, for me, has kind of redefined what it is to be a DJ within that dubstep kind of area. He was down at Phase Transition a couple of weeks ago, the founder of SENTRY Records and one of the leading figures in dubstep in the UK. For me, we have the magnificent DJ YOUNGSTA on the phone. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you, mate.
Excellent. That's what we love to hear, man. It's great to get you on the show. And obviously, you were down for Phase Transition a couple of weeks ago. Let's just do a little bit of a recap, because I didn't actually get to speak to you on the evening. How did you find the whole event from your perspective?
It was crazy. As soon as I walked in the place, it had already been going for, well, over 24 hours from Hatcher, and then by the time I got there, it was fully in full commence. So it was crazy. It was pretty manic in there. And you guys have been obviously working very hard from the start. So it was really special as well, because as soon as Hatcher finished doing what he was doing, that was a big deal. That was a moment in history. Especially for charity. It was a great cause. It was a really special evening, and you could feel that as soon as you got there. It was great to catch up with everyone, bringing everyone together. I didn't actually get to see Terry on the night, Hatcher, because obviously he'd gone by the time I'd got there after that marathon. So yeah, I got to big up you guys. It was a pleasure to be invited and part of it.
Amazing, man. Well, it was great to have you in the building. I was actually sat in the little studio where I'm sat now, next door. Yeah, we were sat in there, and obviously we were listening into your set. As always, it was it was precise. It was so clean in the way it came across, and more than anything else, the thing I kind of want to get from you is obviously being back in that environment after what has seemingly been so long, since there's been so many kind of dubstep heads in one environment. Like, how did that feel from your perspective?
Well, that was the best thing about it, because I'm so used to seeing so many people, acquaintances and very good friends out and about when we're doing what we're doing, playing in all different places, whether it's live gigs or radio streams, whatnot. Yeah, I missed that quite a lot. And obviously I've got my circle of people, and I still keep in contact with people that I know through the scene, DJs that I'm friends with, producers, whatnot. But I've definitely missed being in that environment with them people, if that makes sense. So as soon as I got there, like I say, the energy was great. There was a sort of hint of nostalgia where I'd missed it so much, and there was a lot of old faces that I hadn't seen for a while that had come up and been invited to be part of that event. So that was also special to see some old faces. But yeah, I missed it a lot. And to be honest with you, it did take me a while to get into the set because of the new mixer, the new Pioneer mixer. It took me about 15 minutes to work out how to use a filter on there. It's made it so complicated. But it's just a change of setup, and I wasn't used to it. I hadn't played for a while. But it was good. It keeps you on your toes, and it felt great to be back doing what I love around people that I love.
100%, man. And just for those that aren't aware, we were using Pioneer were very, very kind and lent us as a studio. They lent us the latest, most up-to-date tech, which I think about 12 people in the world at this point have probably been able to have a go on.
I didn't want to bore the listeners with the tech talk and stuff, but yeah, it's like you say, the newest of the new, and I've just been used to using the one prior to that, which has been on my rider, my tech rider, whenever I play, and that happened to be there. The new one happened to be there this time. It's like a Star Trek desk. It's insane. It's like a mixing desk almost. So yeah, it took me a while to get into that, but other than that, it was just great to be be back with the music and resonating with the people.
100%, bro, 100%. And we definitely felt that in the room. And something like, obviously, we're going to talk a fair bit about SENTRY today, because obviously that's a project that you're very much focusing on at the moment, and we're seeing a lot of good things come out of it. But I do want to dive into the dubstep child fan in me right now is jumping out and going, I want to kind of very briefly discuss your style of DJing. It's such a unique thing. It's such a precise, almost it's almost like sniping when it comes to actually putting the tunes next to each other. Like, how much effort goes in your end into actually building track listings and sets, or is it something that just comes naturally to you?
Well, definitely as of now it's natural, definitely. But at the start, I guess it started with the obsession of just wanting to mix two pieces of music together as perfectly and as good as possible, perfectly in time, and what works good with what. And as you progress in your art, you get more technical, you learn more things, and you sharpen your sword. So it's got to a point now where it's very natural, but it also involved me being very selective and still to this day being very selective in what I play and also how I play it. So there's so many amazing DJs out there, but no one's ever going to do it quite like Andy C or the way Carl Cox does what he does. Mixes house and stuff and techno. There's very few DJs that do it the way they do it, and I think that's just down to years and years and years of shaping and crafting that style, and it just become part of me, and I wouldn't really want it any other way. It's just the way I see things has to be done is that way. And even if that means letting tunes breathe, or it doesn't have to be double drop after double drop. Again, I don't want to bore you with the technical talk, but it's basically just how I see naturally fit to do it, and always have done. Like, I've always been obsessed with just the art of mixing and just keeping things smooth, as if it's one tune the whole way through.
100%,
with lots of lots of curves and turns and ups and downs. But essentially, I want the transition to be like perfect, if that even it can exist. The closest to perfect I can get it. So it does involve very, very careful tune selection. It also does involve shaping the tunes that I'm playing, i.e., for example, telling certain, or asking, requesting that certain producers adjust certain things that I know will make it work a lot better for me personally in the mix the way I do it. So it's no wrong or right. It's just simply the way it works for me.
It's the YOUNGSTA way, basically, and it's
you could put it like that.
I mean, the child in me is smiling cheek to cheek right now, listening to you just talk about the precision, and it's something that you've become very, very known for. And obviously, the other thing we are here to talk about today is, of course, SENTRY, which is something which is going very, very well. First of all, how long has SENTRY been up and running now?
Oh, you put me on the spot. That's terrible. do you know what? It's been... We started it in 2000, or I started it in 2000, and I think 19. It may have been 19. No, earlier than that, surely. Do you know what? I'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure it's about 3 or 4 years old now. I'm looking to celebrate the 5th birthday, so because I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be like every year we do a birthday. We did the first birthday, which was brilliant, with a crew called Heavyweight in London. That was really good. And then I thought, you know what? Let's just get some mileage. Let's just get some years under our belt, and then we'll celebrate the bigger one, like the 5th, or maybe if we get to 10. But it feels like 10 years, but it's still a baby, really. I couldn't get it. I couldn't have got it where it's got to today without the help from certain people. The label manager, Matt, is a massive help. I've got to big up Matt and all the Unearthed crew. Them lot are amazing people, very, very loving and in it for the right reasons, let's say. So big up Matt. He's helped me push the label forward. I don't want to be... He helps me with with the things that are not boring but need to be done.
Of course. The
and,
kind of back end that you wouldn't necessarily associate with running a label, you know?
Exactly, a label manager, and what a label manager does is a great thing for someone like me, especially if I'm on the road all the time. I was on the road all the time, and distracted a little bit with other things and different time zones and whatnot. So, yeah, big up Sim as well, who's helped with the artwork from day one, who has been a part of the label. So, you know, in most amazing things that happen, there's always a few people involved. And it was a lovely progression, I may add, to go from working with TEMPA for so many years. When it shut its doors, it was only natural that I moved on, because I was never going to start my own label whilst working for TEMPA.
Of course.
Doesn't make sense. You know, I pick all the good ones and give you the leftovers, or vice versa. Someone's going to suffer, one label or another. So I decided to, you know, stick with what I was doing, and it just naturally, as that closed down, slowly but surely, this was just the right thing to do, without a doubt.
Amazing, man. I mean, I can sit and listen to you like kind of talk through this stuff for hours, and I'm sure there's so many stories from kind of over the years, obviously with SENTRY and then obviously TEMPA before that. The history of SENTRY more specifically though has been one that seems to have taken off very much from the off. Like, did you expect it to have as much impact within the scene as it has done from such an early period?
Well, yeah, because anything you do, I think, you start it with confidence and a true love and belief. So I didn't really have any doubts, especially when I had great faith in my A&R skills. You know, maybe not running a label solely, because TEMPA, I didn't run that. I was part of that. You know, I was head A&R, or whatever you want to call my role. But yeah, I was A&R. So yeah, I was very confident about the music, because that's not a problem. And when you're coming with a release such as Fashion Dread and Digital Dread by the legendary D-Bridge, on making dubstep, and I hate using that word. Not hate, I dislike using that word 140, because yeah, all right, it's the BPM. Supposedly, I've never played music at 140. I've never played dubstep at 140 ever. It's always been pitched up on a deck. So if the track was made at 140 BPM in the computer, if I'm playing it on a Technic deck or any form of deck, if I play it on the zero, it's playing at 140. I always pitched it up. I never played on zero on the green light. It always was at +1, maybe plus 2. So I'm playing 142, mate. You know, I play 142. I don't play 140. Because it's even on a CDJ. If you want to get geeky, I'm playing it at 142 BPM, because I pitch it up a little bit. I feel it gives it a bit of a momentum, and it'll make my set sound slightly different without you even realizing. So yeah, it's dubstep, and I truly think I had no problems delivering such a unique release as my 001, as my SENTRY release, my first ever SENTRY release being D-Bridge. I knew it was going to have impact. So yeah, I'd 100% full beliefs that it was going to do well. Where it went from there, I wasn't sure, because I was just winging it. I heard that tune, and D-Bridge was like, yeah, you should just put it on your own label. And so many other people had mentioned that, and it wasn't till that track that I was like, this is the track that's going to do it. Like, this is 100% the track that is meant for me to start my label, and here we are. So yeah, big up D-Bridge.
Amazing, man. I mean, again, the history is so fascinating to me, and obviously we have only got you for a short period of time, so I want to make sure we are getting as much out of you as possible whilst we've got you on the line. I could genuinely sit here and listen to this for hours. It's so interesting to me from a fan's perspective more than anything else. But I do kind of want to dive into what's on the way for SENTRY in the near future, because obviously I'm assuming once things open up again, it is going to be full steam ahead. What is the future kind of looking like release-wise?
Well, release-wise, it's very healthy, because event-wise, it's been very difficult and non-existent so far. So yeah, the releases are really stacked up, because I've had so much time to focus on the schedule and you know, finding more music putting my attention towards that rather than travelling about DJing. So it's really backed up. I wish I could get more out in a year, but it's just not possible because, you know, you've got to leave the correct amount of time between each release for various obvious reasons. And I wish I had more. I wish I could squeeze more in. So basically, we're backed up till mid next year. And that's difficult as well sometimes, finding the balance between wanting to sign more music and artists, you know, patiently waiting for their track to be released. So, I must be careful. Sometimes I'm like, I'll take that. And it, before I know it, you know, the schedule's rammed completely. But that is kind of nice to be.
It's a nice problem to have, I suppose, rather than the tunes not being there. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't put that better. It's a brilliant problem to have. So we're very organised right now, release-wise and schedule. It's very healthy. Obviously, I completely believe and love the music that we've got coming. There's some really interesting stuff. Dubstep, straight up dubstep. There is some other bits that I don't know what you would call it really. Maybe more garagey dubstep that I've signed that I really like. And it wasn't ever really meant to be just a dubstep label. It was just about releasing music I like, but the majority of music I like is dubstep, so it's stayed that way. But there's been some down-tempo stuff on the label in the past. There will be some more in the future, and like I said, there's some garagey sort of vibey things coming. The SP released, I must plug, that was a really good diverse release for us. Go check that out, that's a good one. Slugfest and Vintage, or Vintage and Slugfest, but
I remember that release. I remember that release very, very specifically. I think I did the Juno download review for it, and I remember that one really kind of, again, cutting through a lot of other things that were going on at the minute.
It definitely does, and you know, a man like yourself can clearly identify that it stands out amongst the rest of our catalogue, especially, and even amongst all music. What SP delivered there was really cutting edge, current, but yet still captured a little bit of a nostalgic vibe from the old sort of essence of early dubstep,
100%,
and late garage. And it's a brilliant release. Big up SP. It really is a favourite of mine, and there's plenty more like that coming. In terms of vinyl, I would like to add that it's become increasingly difficult to get vinyl delivered and organised in the correct way that we need it. Basically, it's been holding up things due to all the nonsense that's going on in the world and the Brexit business and stuff. So with vinyl, SENTRY is not saying it's not doing vinyl no more, but it's going to be more selective on what releases do make vinyl.
Of course,
vinyl format. So, you know, I can get more out. Long story short, I can get more out digitally, and the world is changing. The industry has changed. I mean, so it's like digital is the preferred preference of format, without a doubt. You know, the vinyl junkies, as I am myself, they are they're the dudes on Antique Roadshow. They're getting to the point where they're the vintage shop. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Less people care about vinyl, mate. It's a fact, and I'll always still do it for the people that want it, because, you know, I do still love it. But digital, look out for more digital this year and next year, because we're going to be pushing that a lot more.
Amazing, man. Well, I tell you what, we've nearly run out of time, and I could honestly sit and listen to this conversation for hours on end. I'm sure there's so many stories that we could have dived into throughout the course of the last 20 minutes. I normally break the interviews up as well, but this one, I thought we're just going to have to let it run, because there's so much for us to get into. And I tell you what, we're going to have to get you back on again in the near future just to carry on this story, because it's so interesting to listen through. Youngster, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on this morning.
The pleasure was all mine, mate, and I hope to be back on again soon.
Amazing, 100%. We'll get that locked in. As well as that, though, just before we do finish up, where can people find yourself and all of the SENTRY projects on the socials, I suppose, so people can follow what's going on?
Wow, that feels like a long time since I've to talk about that. Basically, I'm going to keep positive, but next Friday, that's the 4th, you can see me in Manchester if you fancy Manchester or the Manchester gang. I'll be at the Social Avenue for Hit and Run think it's called Social Avenue. And then the next day, I'm going to be in Leeds at Freedom Mills for Subdub, which is always a personal favourite of mine. Big up Simon Subdub. So, yeah, that weekend will be good. Be like the old days, back to normality, where I'm playing some shows on the weekend. Our next release will be... What is the next release? It's a Substance release. A guy from Canada who's a brilliant person, brilliant artist as well. And the track is called Dream State. And there is a flip to that because it's a vinyl release as well. And the track is called Bitter End.
This is Breakfast with KXVU, bringing you their morning flavours on Trickstar Radio.
Trickstar Radio.